Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you all for joining us for today. I am so excited to have Dr. Arthur Debbie here today, who is going to be our amazing guest speaker for today on the topic of leadership succession. I'm so excited to have him and thank you all for joining. Please kindly share the link, invite somebody to join our amazing guest speaker. Kindly share the link and invite somebody to join. We're going to start in 3 minutes. So please kindly share the link and invite someone to join us on today. I'm so excited about the topic we are going to be sharing today. So thank you all who just joined. We'll give a couple of minutes while we start. We encourage you to share the link and invite somebody on board for today. Thank you for joining. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you all for joining. I am so excited about what God is going to do here today, and I'm super excited to have our very own Dr. Arthur Debbie here today, who is one of our amazing co-authors of the Leaders to Leaders anthology. I know some of you are excited already and enjoying the quote on the screen. So that's one of the amazing quotes of our co-author Dr. Debbie, and we are so blessed. So I'll let Dr. Debbie say hello to us while we go. He will introduce himself and say hello to us while we go with our topics for today. So kindly comment where you are joining us from, your nationality, the country you are joining from, and how you are anticipating today's session. Thank you for coming, Dr. Arthur Debbie. Can you say hello to our audience today, Doctor?
Hello, everyone. Definitely glad to have the opportunity, one, to be with you all. Thank you, Eric, for the opportunity and inviting me on. Just really to discuss this amazing book that definitely a group of authors came together to put together. So I'm excited. I'm excited to go further into this discussion today.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you all so much, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm so glad to have you all on again. And I'm super excited to have Doctor on today. This book is an incredible material that is really going to transform your leadership to the next level. I believe strongly because it comes with diverse background, leaders from diverse background, from diverse mindsets, in different environments and in different country across different generations, and they came with diverse experiences that is going to transform and fuel your leadership to the next level. I know you are a great leader and you are doing greater works in your leadership area, but there's a saying that when you stop learning, you start dying. So I believe that this book is really going to transform and empower you to your leadership to the next level. So I'm going to share the screen about how you can get a book. Before we go in today, please kindly share, tag somebody, and invite somebody on board. So this is how you can get the informations on the book. If you need some books, if you are in America, you are in Europe, anywhere you are, you can get it first and foremost on Amazon. So you can get all the copies. If you want a Kindle copy, if you want a paperback, if you want a hardcover, you can get all of them on Amazon. So if you just go to Amazon and you put Leaders to Leaders and you add Dr. Arthur Derby, it's just going to pop up. Or you put Leaders to Leaders, Eric Nate, it's going to pop up. You put Leaders to Leaders, any of the authors, if you put their name attached to the Leaders to Leaders, it's just going to pop up. Or if you put Leaders to Leaders anthology, I believe that this is one of the few anthology we have on leadership with about 9 authors around the world, from South of Africa, from the West of Africa to America, different part of America. And this book there's a burden for us to empower and encourage leaders for them to continue to carry the torch to the next level. That is what birthed this book, and we are so glad to have you on board. And if you want to have some digital copies, you can go on Seller, Selar. We have some digital copies on Seller. If you go to Seller and you type Leaders to Leaders anthology, you can get some digital copies. And if you want some hard copies in Ghana or any part of Africa, let us know. You can reach out to our website, leaders2leadershub.com. Leaders2leadershub.com. So you can get every information you want on our website, readily available on our website about this book. So don't forget to reach out. And if you need further information, you can reach out to us on our social media platforms. We are on Facebook as Leaders to Leaders. You can reach out to us, and we are readily here to help you to grab a copy. Currently, we have some copies in Ethiopia, and we have a lot of copies in Ghana. We just finished a leadership conference, the Kingdom Leadership Conference, and a lot of copies went out through the conference. And we have some copies in Ethiopia currently, and in South Africa, and in the US too. So if you are ready, just let us know, and we're gonna let you grab some copy for your leadership journey. Thank you all for joining us. We are so excited. So today we are going to start with the issue of commitment. But before that, I want to really know your view, Dr. Debbie, on leadership. What does leadership really mean to you? I know there's about thousands of views, but your view really matters. And from your experience in leadership, in nonprofit, and in real estate, and in leadership in diverse field. I really want to know what leadership means to you.
Yes, thank you for that. I think that's a great start to this discussion. One thing that I say is, and it was from a book that I actually read, it was a concept I had already had in mind, but after reading this book, it really helped to seal an understanding of leadership by Simon Sinek that was called Leaders Eat Last. And this was such a powerful book because it talked about how leadership is really about service. It's really about service and stewardship and how you steward and serve others. A lot of times when you think of leading, of course, you're thinking of leading others from the front. You're thinking of people following you. You're thinking of setting forth vision and setting forth principles and setting forth what the structures are, and people follow those things. But a lot of times we don't talk about the servitude. So basically, servant leadership, we don't talk about the servitude of being a leader, that when you become a leader, it comes with more responsibility. more responsibility to actually serve those that you are leading. And so this makes leadership look more collaborative. It makes it look more, it's more than just control and you telling people what to do or having the ability to tell others what to do. It's really about how you serve those individuals, how you cater and support their needs. We see this even with Jesus, who says he did not come to be served, but to serve others. And although we know that we do serve him and we do, we do have obedience to him, he understood that his leadership was about serving others. So that form of servant leadership is how I look at leadership.
Wow, I really love what you spoke about leadership being a responsibility, first
Mm,
of all, and lastly, leadership being service. I believe that this is some fundamental point that we need to hammer on leadership, mostly when we look at today's leadership, because a lot of people are looking for throne to sit on, but they're not ready to take the towel to serve. So many people just want the throne to sit on, they want the name, they want the louder platforms, they want the brands, louder brand, authentic brand, but nobody want to serve. And that is a challenge. But I believe that leadership is going to be more better. Leadership is going to be very transformative. And what you are saying, leaders, transformative leadership, because for us to see a real level of transformation in every
mm,
department of leadership,
mm,
from government, economy, when we look at the church leadership, in different diverse, even families. And when we look at diverse area, for us to see that we need to look at the responsibility, because without responsibility, there's no leadership. And also without service, then leadership is just meaningless. And I believe that
absolutely.
it's just like a playground because
Absolutely.
everybody just want to be on the throne and nobody want to serve. But the real leadership is service. I really love this quote that was said that if service is beyond you, then leadership is below you, or if service is below you, then leadership is above you. So I believe that your leadership can really be can really be measured by your level of service. And I love the example you gave of our Lord Jesus Christ, which is a very incredible example of
Mhm,
what he did and how he came to serve, washing the feet as symbolic and all that. I really love that, and I love your part that you wrote on legacy and succession. I believe that when we look at everything today, we look at the area of business, the area of the economy, political leadership, economical leadership, when we look at ministerial leadership, we see a lot of challenge and we see a lot of decline in the area of succession, because sometimes you see the leader and after the leader is gone, no one to take over. You see the leader doing greater things and after the leader is gone, it's like the vision is gone.
mhm,
And I love how you pointed the Lord Jesus Christ as an example for successive leadership, because we saw that he didn't build any university, but millions are built in his name. He didn't write any book, but millions are written in his name. Whatever he did was transgenerational and was very transformative. So today, I really want to ask you the question, because looking at your emphasis on the Leaders to Leaders book, I want to know how, first of all, how can leaders cultivate the kind of commitment in themselves that they are looking in others? In the reference of when we look at sustained commitment, why sustained commitment is essential for building leadership succession and leadership legacy. Why should leaders be committed to themselves before being committed to others and before they can put that in others?
absolutely. And I think that's an amazing question of this aspect of self-introspection. I wrote this in another book on church and community that focused on, because it's a concept that you cannot really serve others and lead others until you have really taken this approach of introspection of self, knowing what your strengths are, knowing what your weaknesses are, knowing the things that you should work on with yourself as an individual before you are leading others to follow the things that you are setting forth. It's nothing more unfortunate than a leader that has not gone through their own process of self-development. A leader that operates out of their own weaknesses in terms of operating out of their own offenses, operating out of their own inadequacies. And don't get me wrong, we all have weaknesses and things that we work through. None of us are strong in every area. But if you haven't even identified the areas that you need to be processed in, the areas that you need to be developed in, the areas that you need to be strengthened in, uh, it is hard for you to lead others through their weaknesses, through their inadequacies. If you do not have a form of accountability, one thing that I have definitely seen that is difficult with a lot of leaders is taking accountability and responsibility, because sometimes for them taking responsibility and accountability makes them feel weak, and that is a person who sees their weaknesses or sees things that they need to work on as a threat to their leadership is not a real leader. That's not a person that has truly been self-development. Self-developing comes with self-awareness. And you have to have a very strong level of self-awareness to lead other people so that you know how to effectively navigate those leadership traits. And so I think that it is very important to have self-development. It's very important to be self-aware. And that self-awareness takes time. You're never going to just master a level of self-awareness. You're always going to come into some revelation of yourself that you need to address and work on, even while being a leader. So you can lead others while addressing areas of yourself. That's how you become an effective leader. And people need to see you do that. They need to see you process and work through your own self-awareness. That is what people do. Not only follow what you say, they follow what you do, how you act, and how you take accountability and self-awareness for yourself.
Wow, I really love what you just said about self-awareness and also how you cannot lead others if you cannot lead yourself. And John C. Maxwell said something remarkable that I really love. He said that people, just as you said, he said people look at what you do, but they become impacted by what is in you. That means you cannot give what you don't have. So in
Right.
leadership, whatever people are impacted with is what you have. So
Mhm.
you can talk about leadership, but they may not be imparted about leadership. But it's your qualities, what you have is what you can pass down to others, which is very essential in the area of leadership. I really love that you spoke about, and also we leaders holding ourselves accountable, because accountability is the first thing. Accountability is, I believe, it's not an attack. I believe accountability is not a weapon against anybody. I believe that it's a check and balance that will help the leader into full maturity of who he's called to be. And through that, I want to ask you a question. Do you think leadership is a journey or you think it's a destination? Because we're looking at the commitment and all that, we're going to work on it to get there. Do you think it's a journey? Can somebody get there as a destination, fully a leader, or you think it's a gradual journey?
I absolutely think it's a journey. For me, I feel like you are always learning. And once you are no longer a person that is learning, or you are someone that is not on this journey of always remaining teachable, where you can learn something new, we are watching the world change very quickly, very drastically, where we're having to pivot and make adjustments to our leadership styles and how we reach people, understanding that when we talk to one group, it may be different than how we mentor and train another group. If you are not always in a place, I always say remaining flexible and teachable. If you're not always ready to adjust and to remain flexible and teachable, if you feel you have just reached a cap and you have mastered leadership and there's nothing new for you to learn, or then that means that there's no area for you to grow. You're not growing as a leader. And we do see that, right? We do see that there are some leaders that feel that they have reached the ultimate place of leadership and they never change, they never shift, and they never grow. And we start to see that with the people that they're leading. The people that they're leading are kind of living in the past, living in places that have been adjusted and changed. I always say that we need to always be in a place to where we hear what God is currently saying, not just what he has already said and not what he just said, but what he is currently saying, because what God could be requiring of you now as a leader could be different than 5 years ago. And if you're not always listening and always willing to be flexible and adjust, you'll miss what he's saying to you now.
Yes, I love that. Leading from the future and also leading from now. Leading from now. I love that. Leading from now, from God's voice now and what God is saying right now, and also leadership being progressive. Yeah, because I believe that one of the greatest enemy of leadership is the leader thinking that they've
Hmm.
reached, and today we'll form a lot of titles like master this, master leader, master prophet, master teacher, master
Mhm.
apostle, which is good. But I believe that no matter how mastered you are, you need to continue going because, as you said, it's progressive and it's a journey. Until one day we hear, "Well done, good and faithful servants." So coming back to the problem of leadership succession and legacy, which is first, which one should leaders pursue first? Should leaders pursue succession first before the legacy, or legacy before succession? And which matters, or you think both matters in leadership?
Mhm. So I definitely think both matter. But as I wrote in this book about succession and legacy being two things that are they're distinct. They have their own distinction to them. They are different in a sense. That succession is when you are intentionally transferring over this leadership responsibility. So we see one person that is stepping down or moving into another role, and they are intentional about choosing a successor or someone who is going to then carry on the legacy. So we see how they are similar, legacy and succession, but they're two different things. And we do see some people that jump to legacy before addressing succession. And the reality is, legacy cannot continue on. This is that continuation of the work without being intentional about who you are choosing and what team and what person, what you are putting in place to carry on that legacy. So it's hard to, and I've seen this a lot, especially in church settings where there's a lot of intentionality around legacy. We want what we have built here to continue on, but they skip that step of succession. The right person was not put in place, or no one was intentional about choosing a person that would continue on that legacy. So legacy can be halted if we're not focused on what does succession look like. Does it look like a person? Does it look like a team? Does it look like what does it look like to carry on the legacy? So we do have to understand that they are two distinct functions, but that operates interconnected. Once you have a solid succession plan, then that is what secures your legacy, the legacy of the continuation of your work.
So, by what you are saying, that means the 360 of legacy, you can find succession in it. So, in a way, are you trying to say succession and legacy is united together? You need legacy and succession need to be part, like the ingredients of the legacy. Because so does it mean without legacy, succession is meaningless, or without succession, legacy is meaningless? What do you think of the both?
I think without succession, if you don't have succession in place, then legacy will become meaningless because legacy will not continue on. Legacy has to be continued by a person that you have poured into and a person that you have been intentional about building up as the next leader. I think we always have to be in that mindset of, as a leader right now, you have to be in a mindset of who do I train up and prepare to carry on the legacy of this work. Now, if there is no, desire for legacy, then, you don't have to have any type of succession plan if the work stops with you. But that's also another question of, is it true leadership if the desire is that the work stops with me? That this everything that I'm doing and everything that I'm building is for my leadership. It's for me to lead this. And once I'm no longer here, the work dies. The work is over. And in my opinion, that's not a leader. A leader is not someone who is building something for themselves, a monument for themselves. It becomes slightly like an idol. I'm building this leadership around me and around a product or around a ministry that I want to be built around me. And when I die, I want it also to end and to die. So you have to, as a leader, be thinking about succession for the sake of legacy. But if legacy means nothing to you or carrying on the work, then you do have to question, is this person a leader?
Wow, that is very deep. That is some deep thought. And I know you are really blessing our leaders on today. You really said something that really hit me. I was like, what? You said a lot of people are trying to build a monument and they're not trying to advance their leadership. And we see a lot of monumental leadership today. Um, like you see, leaders build a lot of things around themselves. If you want to look at
Mhm.
emergency of individual ministries in the early 2000s, when we look at from the mid centuries after the Dark Ages coming to Protestants, and we saw the emergency of Pentecostalism and the prophetic ministry. Today we look at the apostolic era and all that. We see that it got to a point that now it's becoming ministry, like individual ministry. And sometimes when the individual is gone, everything ends. But I believe that the Lord is calling us to a place that will have the mindset of a movement, not just a
Okay.
monument. Like Pastor
Absolutely.
Eric ministry, and it ends with Pastor Eric after Pastor Eric is go back, having a mindset of movement. Because
Right.
if a leader builds a movement, it's going to advance. Because I believe that the call for leadership is not a call to build monuments, it's a call to build movement. Because the movement will lead to succession. Movement will lead to succession because you're thinking about what next. What if I'm gone in the next minute? What next? So we look at Elijah dealing with that. When we look at the Elijah leadership, he dealt with that seriously because we saw the sons of the prophet who were very educated, they were very charismatic, and they were very learned, in the Jewish tradition, the Torah and all that. But if he found somebody who had his spirit, somebody who had a spirit like Elisha, who had a spirit. So I believe charisma is not enough because today there's a lot of breakaways, there's a lot of breaking down of legacies because of the successes we put in place. Because a lot of time we want somebody who is very charismatic, who is very
Mhm.
eloquent, but they may not have the spirit of what you carry. So now we'll place somebody there because of their charisma, but not because of their character or because of the spirit they carry. And
Mhm.
now you see that we have a lot of problems. So I believe that the Lord is calling us to a place that we need to really advance beyond that, advance beyond building things in our name and just looking at the next generation. And I love one thing Apostle Axel always say about leading from the future, because
Mm.
we saw the Joshua problem, that after Joshua went away, the children of Israel went wayward because there wasn't a succession plan. Moses had a successor, but Joshua didn't have a successor. So after he left, we saw that everything went wayward because the people don't know what to do.
Mhm.
He's a great guy. He led them to the promised land, but they don't know what to do. What is next for them? So I believe that that's very important for leaders to look at that legacy versus succession, so that we can be able to make the right one. Yeah. So what are some other models of biblical succession? Can you talk about? I know you mentioned some in your book, but can you touch on some? Like when you look at example of successful leadership successions, and what lessons can churches learn today? And I know there's a lot of ministerial leaders on here today, and there's a lot of leaders from diverse areas. So what are some other biblical models you think can help us and examples?
Yes, one that I look at often that really ministers to me is Elijah and Elisha. And this aspect of where we always go straight to is him asking for this mantle and wanting to have a double portion. Elisha wanting from Elijah a double portion of his anointing. But what he does is he understands that in order to follow Elijah, he has to give up and he has to leave his family and he has to give up everything in order to follow. And he also understands this intentional, faithful observation and discipleship. He is following, he's intentional with his followership, but Elijah has to set an example to him of what it means to be a leader. And so, a lot of times, and this goes to those who are following leaders, is in order to follow, we must be willing to burn our ox carts. We have to be willing at times to let go of uh, what is familiar to us to be able to follow a rabbi, to be able to follow a teacher, to be able to follow a leader. And I think that Elijah understood that this person was following him intentional, was following him with being faithful. And he was able to then give him, he was able to then pass on a mantle intentionally. And another would be, I honestly think with Jesus and the disciples,
Mm,
of how these disciples are following him and how they are intentional with follow, but how he is teaching them. And if we see with Jesus, the thing that I like about Jesus and the disciples is that every disciple had a different level of impartation of what they received from Jesus. That
mm,
we see that Peter is different. Peter is the one that he's using to build the church. We see Thomas that is also in a place where he's following, but then he's doubting the resurrection after he's even following him. So
mm.
every person that is following you is going to have a different level of impartation and a different level of understanding and revelation. They're not going to all receive the same way. The fruit of what you are pouring into them as a leader is going to look differently, but that doesn't judge necessarily always your leadership. And so I love seeing this succession of you have to know which leader, right? Jesus had to know which leader to pass a mantle on to, which leader to appoint to be the one who would be the one to start the church, which leader of my disciples can I trust with this level of leadership. And so you have many people that are following you as a leader, but which leaders can you choose to be a true succession of what you want to build after you, of the work that you want to be continued after you? Who can you trust or who has the capacity? And I think Jesus knew, he knew who would betray him. He knew even with those who would betray him, he knew who had the ability to carry on and start the church. He knew who would have the ability to carry on and share and be witnesses to the gospel. So he knew based off of every person that was following him who had the ability to do what. So that also leads into succession could also look like a team that are carrying out different functions based on their capacity.
Yeah, that is some great words right there. Knowing who to carry on, and that is so great. And we need to understand as leaders that without succession, everything we build sometime can be meaningless and it can be problematic. But there's a very serious problem of succession. Throughout the Bible, we see a lot of people having succession problems, like throughout the centuries till now. Like, I need to run through organizations, ministries, different businesses. We see it, and it's really problematic. So I want to ask you a question. What practical step do you think leaders on today can use to build something that will outlive their personal leadership? Because it's problematic, and sometimes it's a problem of trust because the leader doesn't even know um, who to hand who to
Mhm.
trust with the next project when they are gone. And sometimes leaders are so afraid because you don't know the future. You don't know, so leaders try to live in the now and not to live in the future. So, but after the key leader is gone, you see problems like you see a lot of problem, and that's that issue happening right now all over the social media, like a lot going on with some key organization in Africa that lost the leader, and it became a lot of court issues and all that. So, what do you think is some of the practical steps that a leader can take to really be intentional to
Mhm.
build what we are talking about, something that really outlive their personal leadership?
Absolutely. I think one thing is definitely the failure to plan. If you fail to plan, then you there should be some, if you fail to plan, then you will plan
Yeah.
to fail. So you have to be very intentional about putting a plan in place, and the plan is not put in place once you are sick. The plan is not put in place once we know you're no longer in leadership. I've known people to effective pastors and people who have put succession plans in place. They know the succession plan 10 years before their retirement. They know the succession plan before they are sick. What we've seen, as you were talking about with social media, what we've seen is a lot of people try to implement a plan once the leader is now sick and has 6 months to live, and now we are trying to put together a full succession plan. And a succession plan is not just knowing the successor. Like I said in the last question, a succession plan, because sometimes the successor could be a team of people that are carrying out specific functions. In order to know those functions, you have to have a full plan in place. So it's hard for us to, one, develop a plan and to start executing that plan and training up the individuals who are going to carry out that plan in 6 months because we're also operating on crisis mode. It's hard to put together a succession plan when you're in crisis. When we know someone's about to die, someone resigned, someone was fired, it's always an afterthought. So it's hard to put together succession in crisis. You have to do it now. No matter where you are in the stage of your ministry, I know, and I said it in the book, that sometimes we get so focused on building and trying to build something, we forget about succession. Honestly, once you step into that place of leadership, your mind automatically goes into succession. So you have to learn how to build and lead as the leader, but also have in mind, who am I preparing to take my place? Your position as a leader in that specific function is not guaranteed long. And that's not saying just unto death, but you may move into another area, another lane of leadership. Did you prepare someone else to take your place? Did you prepare a people to be able to lead? So I would say now is the time to plan. You have to start putting that plan together on paper so that people can see it even when you're not there to say, this is my plan for succession.
Wow. Yes, that is great. I really love what you spoke about. That succession must be planned now that you are here, now that you are stronger, now that you are good in your mental health and everything. You don't wait for the last time that you are on your sick bed or you are transitioning to a different department
Right.
or you want to focus on a different mission. Now, before you want to choose a successor, and it's going to bring a lot of confusion, and
Right.
and even the question is that would that plan be spiritually led because it's now an urgency. So a lot of time we see that we choose people because of the situation. There are situational demand successions that we make, and sometimes there's accidental successions that we make. We make successions sometimes in the time of emergency
Right.
because you need to get somebody as soon as possible because this is going down and you are now sick and sometimes situational because of the situation you are in. You feel like, oh, I feel like bad. I believe that even we as Christians and as people of God, I believe that God is calling not just to make succession, but spiritual succession. That means we'll make it in line with the Holy Spirit. What is the Holy Spirit saying about this? Even with your business, with your
Right.
ministry, in politics. What is the Holy Spirit saying about this? How can I align this properly to what God is, the vision God is giving me to build? Yeah, because we can make succession out of emergency, out of problem and different things, and it will still not end well because the person is not fit to be there. They don't have your spirit. They can be inspired, but they don't have what you carry,
Mhm.
and I love what you mentioned about the failure to plan the failure to plan. Why do you think leaders fail to plan? Do you think it's a problem of fear? Because because from where I've come from, leaders will make that assertion, but they'll try to hide it
Mhm.
majority of the time until they leave. Because sometimes leaders are fearful because when I let this person know he's the next person, is he not going to take me off?
Yeah.
Is he not going to kick me out? It's like you having Absalom as your successor and you, David, making Absalom know that, hey, you're going to be the next king. Like Absalom is going to be quick to kick David out so that he can be the next king because sometimes leaders also become vulnerable because they are afraid that people know their weakness. And so what do you think is the problem? Why leaders fail to plan and fail to choose successors or put a plan ahead of time?
I think what you said was just very powerful because this leading from a place of fear and leading from a place of insecurity, because a lot of leaders in their fear and their insecurity is the loss of power and control. We see a lot of even ministries and businesses close down because a person was not willing to either, acknowledge a successor or even partner with people to ensure the legacy of what they are building because of the loss of power. I think you were talking about early, we've seen splits. We've seen so much division and separation because of the failure to work with other people. If you have to partner with someone in order to ensure your legacy is continued on, why not do that unless you are fearful of the loss of control and power? But as your first question that you asked earlier, what is leadership? And if my understanding and defining of leadership is around my power and my control and not around what I am building and the continuation of it beyond me, then I will operate out of fear. I'll operate out of insecurity. And you were right. I won't tell anyone about a secession because the mere idea of someone else replacing me before death is unheard of because it's a loss. My mind is automatically, that's a loss of power. What
Mm.
am I outside of this role and outside of this space? If I am telling someone they're going to be my successor, they're going to be, and then what if they start preparing? What if I actually, and I've seen that happen more negatively than positively, where we are willing to not inform someone, not prepare someone out of that fear and that insecurity of I may lose my power, I may lose my control.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I think that's something that every leader needs to think about. And I love what you said. So it's the foundation. It's the foundation. And sometimes I don't tend to blame leaders because sometimes it's about what leaders get exposed to,
Right.
the environment they grew in, from who they learned, from how their leadership was inspired. And
Hmm.
sometimes it become transgenerational because some leaders are leading from fear because everything was handed over to them through fear and through power and through control. So
Yeah,
they also need to maintain it through fear, through power and control. So
absolutely.
it becomes transgenerational to the next leader who is coming. Now, I want us to give us one key features. I want you to give us one key features of God-led succession versus ambition-driven succession.
Mm.
What is one key feature that you give us that will help us to differentiate and be guided?
Yes, and when you were talking about someone making a succession plan, for instance, that is out of crisis and out of and it's not God led, it's not spirit led. One thing about leading and even succession is that it has to be spirit led. So this has to be something that you are depending on the spirit to reveal to you who a successor is and even how you should lead and impart into that person, because all you can see is the now. All you can see is what how God is asking you to lead now. You are not sure of how he desires you to impart into the next person for the work they're going to carry on. We've seen work be carried on that expands way beyond what the seed that you planted. And that should be the goal as a leader, is that you have planted a seed. You put the work forth. You tilled the ground. You planted the seed. Now someone else comes to water, but it's all for God to get the increase, for him to be able to expand the work beyond what you could have even imagined and thought. But when what we have done, because what that requires is a lot of yielding. You have to be obedient in that place. You have to yield to the way God is desiring you to do it, which may not be in alignment with what your flesh is desiring to do in that moment. And what we've seen a lot of people do is choose to lead off of self-ambition over yielding to the way God is desiring it to be carried on. And when you lead out of self-ambition, and I want people to hear this, you limit the potential of your harvest.
Hmm.
So you limit the potential of what you are building. You are planting a seed. Remember, God is calling you to plant this seed. He calls someone else to water it, and then he gets the increase. Are we truly limiting our potential for our harvest because we are driven by our own self-interest and ambition? We're driven by our own fear of our control, a fear of being in control and in power. So, because I want to be in control and in power, I will hold on to things and I will not plan succession and I won't plan growth or I won't impart into the next person because I'm afraid of losing my power. Do you know that you could kill your generational growth? You can put a halt to your legacy
Mm,
by trying to hold on to things because you are fearful, you are scared, you are self-driven. You've built
mm,
an idol to your own, to yourself, and built a monument to yourself, and not built something, as you were talking about, not built this movement. And a movement goes beyond your life. It goes beyond you. And you don't want what you are doing now to stop with you. That will be a waste of living. You want to live to where you have poured completely out, and
mm,
what you have poured is going to water the seed for a generation to come. It will have a harvest. So don't halt your harvest by self-ambition.
wow. That is so mind-blowing. Doctor, you are giving us a lot of greater, powerful nugget today. So this is a question for every leader. Are you blocking your harvest or you are expanding your harvest? And the second question is that are you ready for the increase?
Mhm.
And are you open for the increase? That's what Doc is saying. Because for us to be open and to be ready for the increase, that means we need to be ready to start to plan now about our succession and our legacy. If not, that we are blocking the increase, we are blocking the harvest that will be coming.
Absolutely.
That's also so another question is so you've answered about so how can we avoid a misaligned succession? Just one practical way that will help us to be able to avoid a misaligned succession because what you are saying is very crucial and it's making me to just think about it in the spiritual way. That means that there can even be spiritual problem as a leader. You can even have problem with God because you chose the wrong succession. You didn't put the right succession in place. So it tells me that the whole of leadership, we need to be 360 ready. It's not just about walking in the vision and doing this. It's about planning the after because God is trusting you with the next.
Right.
So God is going to ask you what did you put in place before you left? It's a very tough question. So how can we avoid a misaligned succession? And what one would you think can help us as a reminder to avoid a misaligned succession?
Yes, absolutely. The first thing is, as we were just talking about, that spirit led. So, understanding your succession is spirit led, it is led by God. This comes out of prayer. This comes out of true consecration and prayer for the Lord to reveal to you who it is to impart into. If we are once again led by this self ambition or even led by fear, at times will also lead you to make decisions that are still beneficial to your control. So what I've seen is that people are put in place that will continue the control of the leader. So if the leader is still trying to exercise a level of control and will not relinquish their leadership to the successor, they want to put someone in place that will still maintain their control. They'll at times pass it on to their child, pass it on to friends, pass it on to people that were not led by God. It was not a God decision. So did this decision come out of prayer and
Mm-hmm.
consecration to avoid it being misaligned? And you want it to be, and God is going to choose a person that you can impart into that will have spiritual maturity and capacity. Because when it comes to succession, it's not just about gifts and
Mm-hmm.
abilities and talents, because those things they come without repentance, and meaning that those things anyone can carry a specific gift or talent to be able to do a specific task or to be able to do a complete a specific position. But do they have, as you were talking about early, the character? Do they have the capacity Do they have the spiritual maturity to be able to lead others?
Mm,
And if they do not have capacity and maturity, then they'll still drop the ball and not continue on the legacy in which they were appointed to help continue on. So you have to look for those things that, and those things are birthed out of prayer. So do they have the maturity to be able to lead, or are we only looking at abilities and talents and gifts and what looks good on a leader? And as you were talking about the charisma of a leader, it was hard for the people to accept Jesus as being the Messiah and the King because
mhm.
he did not look like the King they were desiring. He
Yep.
did not look like the strong and mighty King that they were looking for, a warrior. They were
Hmm.
not looking for a meek and humble king that he came as. And so we can be blinded at times by that appearance, that charisma, that look, that talent, and not the person that actually has the capacity and the spiritual awareness to be able to continue on the work. So it may not look like what you think it will look like. That's why it has to come from God.
Wow. Wow. This is so great. This is full of wisdom. We are so blessed. Oh my God. This is so great. Yeah, so that tells me that even succession is not always about the stronger, it's not always about the eloquent,
Mhm.
because these people were looking for someone to deliver them from oppression.
Right.
And you have come and you are saying, when somebody slap you, turn the other cheek to the person.
Yeah.
They're like, no, we're not ready for that. We are ready for war. We want to
Right.
get out of this oppression and build back the kingdom, like come and sit on the throne and a
Mhm.
whole lot. So we need to be spirit led.
Yeah.
We need to be spirit led. I love what you said here. You said something which is very great, which I'm going to read. He said something. It's one of the powerful statements you made was that the greater question is not whether your ministry or organization will end, but whether it will continue.
Mhm.
So my question is that what does that statement mean to you, and why should every leader take it seriously? And before that, you said something that I really love, that succession is not blood, it's not just about blood related. Succession is not friends
Mhm.
club, it's not a friends game, it's spiritual and its intentionality. So it's not about whether your work ends with you, but will it continue with you? Why do you think that is very serious for leaders to contemplate and think about it daily?
It's one because you do have to look at and assess, are the things that I'm building right now, are they meant for me to pass on to someone else to continue that work, which means having to be confident and secure enough to build a team or to have people around you. And this is the thing that may be stronger than you in certain areas. You shouldn't just have a team of people and people that you are surrounded around where you are the big fish in the room. And that's a hard concept for people about leadership, because leadership always for people is to be the strongest, to be the most qualified, to be the most everything in the room and in the space. But how does the work get expanded and increased if there's nobody else in the room that may have more skill than you in an area, that may, be smarter than you in an area, that may be more technical than you in a space in an area? Because that's how you, as the visionary, you as the person with the vision, that's how you, what we call, have an extension and an expansion of your work. There needs to be an extension to you, or the work will die with you. And you have to always ask yourself every day, is what I'm building right now, is it intended to end with me? Is it intended to die with me? And as I said earlier, and is that really a leader? Are you really leading if the people that you are leading and the work that you are leading is intending to die with you?
Hmm.
Because then what are you leading? What you are really just doing, you could just be serving and working. But if you're leading, you are leading something that goes beyond you. You're leading something that is supposed to last beyond you, which means every day and everything that you're doing, you have to be thinking about, how does this expand and extend beyond me?
Wow. Wow, that's so great. So what one advice will you leave whilst we wrap up? What one advice will you leave for leaders who are on today? with what they are building, both emerging leaders and established leaders on today.
Yes, absolutely. Plan today. Plan today. I would say do not let another day go by without thinking about what does your succession plan look like? What does the work, and sometimes that requires at times saying, what does this work look like beyond me? What do
Mm,
I want it to look like beyond me? And that's something I've even had to question myself about the ministry that I'm doing. And not just positions, but the ministry work is what do I want this to look like after me? What do I want it to look like beyond me? And that type of succession thinking allowed me, actually, it helped liberate me in some areas because I stopped feeling like I had to be in control of everything. When I started to really realize that there are some things that I am building for someone else to carry on and to carry beyond me, I started to realize that some things are just for me to plant seed. There are some things that I am doing that is really only for me to plant seed. So, actually building out succession today and thinking about succession today could free up some of your time. It could free up some of the pressure that you have of thinking that that every harvest is going to be contingent upon you building something. For some things, all you need to do is plant the seed. You're the visionary. You
mm,
present the vision and plant the seed, and there's someone else God will attach to that, but you have to be secure. You have to have a plan in place. He'll release that and he'll release the resources and the people and the support to a person that has a plan. He will give provision to a person that has a plan in place. But if everything is just tied to you, there's no plan, there's nothing in place, then there's no need for provision if it stops with you.
mm.
So put together the succession now and think about yourself as the visionary that plants the seed.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Arthur Debbie. So, if you were a reader, are you really going to read the Leaders to Leaders anthology? And as an author, I know sometimes we don't want to be biased, but realistically, if you are, why would you recommend the Leaders to Leaders anthology for those who are listening and those who are going to listen later? Why are you going to recommend this book to them for such a time like this?
Yes, and I think this book, I think you all need to one read all of the sections in this book, not only just because it is a powerful read, but it provides some very tangible approaches and practices for leaders. So I think that if you are looking for, something that is not just an academic book, because it is, but something that is not just an academic read and a bunch of theory, there's some very practical approaches from some hands-on, boots on the ground leaders that are leading in various functions where you can take some of their practices, some that have worked, some in learning from their experiences and our experiences, and be able to implement those things in your own ministry setting and environment. So I say, if you're looking for something tangible where you can implement some practices, this is for you to read.
Thank you so much for that recommendation. I believe strongly that this book have a lot of things together in it, because there's a lot of books that talks about leadership qualities.
Mhm.
Some talk about visionary leadership. Some talk about succession leadership. You need to get different of those books. So you need to get about 9 different books, to be able to get information that is in a leaders book. But if you get just this book, is going to tell you about leadership succession with practical ways. It's going to tell you about conflict resolution. It's going to tell you about vision and manager versus leaders and a whole lot. So you have everything together, and it's going to be like a manual to guide you. And even with the greater work you are building, I know a lot of you would love to connect with Dr. Debbie today. Is an incredible leader doing a greater work. I want you to share the current work you are doing and how our audience can connect with you. If you can share some of your handles and how they can connect with you with the greater work you are doing.
Yeah, so currently I am a ministry leader, an assistant pastor in Washington, D.C., as well as a nonprofit leader, on a nonprofit that is focused on housing, affordable housing, and building homes and providing housing opportunity and pathways to veterans and our general community, and have been doing that for well over 10 years now. And one way that you can connect with me is either through my website at arthurdarby.com or drarthurdarby.com, outlives.com. But also, I would say a good way is to connect with me on my socials if you want to stay in contact and seeing some of the events and things that I am having, and also helping to train other leaders is also Dr. Arthur Darby on Instagram and Dr. Arthur Darby on Facebook as well.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Atta Debbie. We are so blessed to have you, and thank you for your greater contribution to the Leaders to Leaders book. I'm telling you, it's really touching lives, and we had a lot of testimonies coming in around the US and also from Africa and across. And we are so blessed to have you, and thank you for your dedication, commitment to this transformative work. God bless you for coming, and we are so blessed to have you one more time.
Awesome. Thank you all. It was a pleasure.
Okay.